The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert, clear all channels.
This is an exclusive
Pay-per-view review.
How you like that?
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Welcome, everyone, to Wrestling to the Max Elimination Chamber 2017 review. And tonight we are going to be talking about all the matches and all the great and interesting results that went down. I'm your host, Gary Vaughan. Of course, with me tonight is Mr. Sean Garmer.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And, of course, if you want to find all of our great content, you need to go check out W2Mnet.com. That's right. You can find all our podcasts, plus all the written reviews and all the other great wrestling content that we have to offer you guys. Plus, don't forget, if you listen on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts, make sure you go subscribe to the W2M Network if you have not already. But tonight, guys, we've got a big show to talk about, and one that's really, really fun if you, like a lot of the people that went over, and really depressing if you had a few of the people that you're really big fan of lose. So this is going to be fun. I'm excited about it. In fact, from my personal perspective, I kind of called it a sweet and sour show. So that's just my perspective. We're going to find out what these two guys have to say as well. And so let's get this thing going and under control a bit here, guys. Let's start this thing off by talking about the biggest thing on the show, and that was the Elimination Chamber. And this was a chamber that, it was kind of interesting. It looked a little updated a little bit. It looked kind of, a nice, sleek look to it, if you ask me. Just before we jump into the match and all that, what did you guys think about the chamber itself? I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the old chamber, but I think this one looked pretty good.
I thought the new look was great. I thought the match was even better. Like, this may or may not have been certainly one of the better ones I can ever remember, and it might be the best chamber match I've ever seen in my life. This was great. I think the pacing was on point. I think everybody came out of this looking pretty gosh darn good, and you got some surprises here or there, like Baron Corbin being the first eliminated. I was not expecting, or the massive beatdown he puts down on Dean. I was expecting that to be actually in the match, not after he was already gone. So I think there were some surprising points here, and Bray looks damn near unstoppable winning this thing. Pins both Cena and AJ, clean as a sheet, just incredible.
Yeah, definitely. You're exactly right. And Sean, this was, like Paul just pointed out, there was lots of different things going on that really kind of shocked us. Baron Corbin, I kind of felt like maybe go into the finals here, maybe the last three guys, maybe even, one of the, just the very end guys, and it didn't work out that way, first eliminated, but that, of course, that builds with The Miz. The Miz actually kind of hung out inside his pod, biding his time for the right time, and of course, finding a way to get Ambrose thrown to the pod and, takes him down. So it was an interesting chain of events here. You get your final three being Cena, AJ Styles, and Bray Wyatt, and Cena actually gets eliminated by Bray Wyatt, like Paul just mentioned, and of course does win this thing at the end. How did you feel, though? Did you like the way they set this whole thing up?
Yeah, this match was great from beginning to end. There was before you even got the last, Baron Corbin and The Miz in there. I felt like it took forever to get to them because there was so much stuff that went on before you got to them. I felt like half the match happened before you even got to them. Just the Ambrose flying off stuff. I will say that I'm live tweeting part of this because I was doing the soccer podcast during half of the this match going on, so I'm having to rewatch it. And I saw a lot of people complaining about that they basically babied the chamber. Like, it used to be a lot more brutal, and they made it like a safe version. And I'm like, what do you expect them to do? Yeah, before they used to fall on just flat metal, and it used to kill their back. And I mean, like, this is about making sure that the guys last past this match. It's not let's all die in the Elimination Chamber. So if you have a problem with the fact that not everything's chain link and they have the little parts where you can walk around on the top that weren't there before and all that stuff, I mean, really? Come on now. I think it made it a lot more fun. They were just flying from everywhere, like that double spot where Wyatt throws AJ and then he gets power bombed or whatever was pretty awesome. And I mean, the AJ took some silly spots in this too. He didn't need to do that. Ambrose going through the plexiglass was pretty awesome too. So, there was some cool moments and definitely just freaking great match. I think this was the match we were all looking forward to, saying, okay, this is going to make or break the show, and you definitely got that here.
Yeah, and they of course, when we do talk about this, we also have to mention that Cena and AJ Styles started this thing, and the fact that I think they were kind of, leading off from the big pay-per-view of a Royal Rumble and the big match that they had and everything that kind of linked into that. So I kind of appreciate that they kind of bled it over into this, and then of course, led it on further into this, the main event here. We've got lots of storylines, I think, built out of this, and of course, kind of looking like there's some arrows pointed in some different directions for feuds going forward here. I think it's very interesting to see the whole Corbin and Miz thing. I think that could, be some issues going down the line. But really, I mean, what did you get out of this? As you watch this match, what do you see coming out of this and leading into the future? I think the one obvious one is Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. But other than that one, really, what do you see coming out of this?
I think, obviously, the Baron Corbin stuff with Dean, and even the Miz maybe sneaking in there and just sort of taking advantage. That might all still get capitalized on at some point for the Intercontinental Championship. So I keep your eyes peeled on that. It looks like Cena and AJ are going to be moving on to different things, although with as not, the roster on SmackDown isn't very deep either. So these guys, I'm sure, are still going to constantly be hovering around the championship. And with Bray at the helm, at least for now, until you get to Mania, and whether Randy wins the championship or not, you certainly have plenty of fresh matchups now for that championship. And I think that's another important thing to take away from this, is that they're taking a chance on Bray for however long that lasts. And I keep saying that because I still think he's dropping it to Randy. But for however long it lasts, you have a fresh champion with fresh matchups. And I think that's something to be excited about for however long that's going to last.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it lasts the 7 weeks or whether it goes longer, I still think that, with WrestleMania not being the end show anymore, they could still find some kind of way to extend it. Maybe this is where Rowan shows up and helps Bray win, and then maybe Randy doesn't get it till I think that would be Payback, because they moved that one to be the first one. Whatever. It's probably so that Randy wins, but you never know. So many things can change, like, Daniel Bryan brought up on Talking Smack afterwards of, you got 7 weeks till this WrestleMania for SmackDown, so you got lots of time here for them to figure out what they want to do, and if that's going to be, that's your main storyline going forward, who they're going to involve, and how's Luke Harper going to stay relevant in this, and what's going to happen, So
What I did not have a chance to watch the Talking Smack following Elimination Chamber. Did he mention anything about the whole Miz thing? I know it's continuing story.
No, they didn't say anything about that.
Okay.
They, yeah, I think Miz, that if you caught it there in the fight with Nikki and Natalya, they did have Maurice be the one that gets sprayed with the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, that probably is going to lead to be one of the things that starts the rumored, mixed tag match or whatever, if that's still happening. It's so crazy, though, to think that after what you just saw in the chamber, you might possibly have AJ against Shane McMahon and John Cena in a mixed tag. I mean, really? We just watched them go out there and beat the bejesus out of each other, and we're going to do that at WrestleMania. Okay. Whatever. That'll be, I guess, a spectacle all in itself. But, I think Dean and Baron Corbin for the IC title, I think that will be really interesting leading up to it. Dean's crazy. Baron's going to get sick of Dean just coming out of nowhere and beating him up and stuff, so that should be fun, and let's see how they deal with that going into WrestleMania, And, like Randy Orton was just watching Bray when he's celebrating or whatever there at the end, so, yeah, it's going to be a fun 7 weeks.
Yeah, I think so too, and I like that you pointed it out because it was a stare at Bray Wyatt that was really serious, and one that lets you know that now that Randy Orton understands who the champion is, and even though it is a guy that he's associated with, it doesn't matter. That's all he's looking at now. And so I think that's really going to be kind of a fun build. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to be happening when it comes to the promos and all the action.
Sorry, we didn't mention this, but how surprised are you that, they beat the hell out of each other, so, they're both tired, but how surprised are you that no interference in that match, just Bray Wyatt beating those guys, and he wins. Like, there's no asterisk, there's no Randy Orton came in, there's no Luke Harper came in, none of that. That's even more, makes it even feel more special for Bray.
I think it's something that was completely necessary, right? I mean, if you have Bray win because of the family or because of Randy or because of somebody else, then not only do you take away from the moment, but Bray is somebody who has needed this big win, I think, for a long time to at least legitimize him and try to put him in that scene. And beating both AJ and Cena, who Cena put over big on the Talking Smack after SmackDown, saying that they were the only two on the level that he was at. I think that's a big deal, at least from that point of view. And then you also have Cena and AJ having an out now of saying, well, they started the damn thing, right? And that's why they lost. But
right.
There's so much good, I think, that came out of this from Bray. Like, he looked straight up dangerous in this thing, even though he took some big hits. And in that 450 AJ hits looked like it just hurt like nobody's business. But goodness, Bray looks unstoppable, I think, nearly at this point, and that's what you want.
They could still have them get involved too, because Cena does have a rematch here, so they could have Orton get involved in that match, or Harper get involved in that match, and that's how you tie things in or whatever.
And I do agree with what Paul's saying here, and I want to point out one other thing that I was kind of thinking about as I was thinking about the fact that the prediction of Randy Orton winning the title at WrestleMania from Bray Wyatt, assuming Bray Wyatt makes it that far, and I think we all think he will. I think that in the end, it's not so bad for Bray, because not only does Bray win this clean, he gets this without any other help, like you're pointing out, Sean, but he gets at least 7 weeks of him looking good, 7 weeks of him holding that title, and then the next time he's able to either go for a title or even win it, he's not just another guy on the roster. He's a former champion, former WWE champion. That's a big deal, and that I know there's been plenty of them, and there's several on this roster that can claim that, even Dean Ambrose and other guys. But that legitimizes him right there, just alone, that he's held this title. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing, if you ask me, because for so long we've talked about Bray Wyatt being kind of lost in the fray. The guy that has potential but just never gets to do anything. And finally, he's there. I hope this means great things for him, even if it's not right now, even if we're still kind of slowly getting into it. Maybe down the line we can actually look for, even longer reigns. You never know. He may not even lose at WrestleMania, but if we're going with that prediction, I'm glad at least for 7 weeks he has that opportunity to look good.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, we talked about the Chamber quite a bit here. Lots of cool stuff, and of course, we'll probably even be touching on more of this stuff as we go into our week of episodes of Wrestling to the Max. But let's go ahead and jump into some of these other matches that were really interesting, and I think we should go ahead and jump into the match that kind of started this whole night off, and that's, of course, Becky Lynch facing off against Mickie James.
Well,
and I think
Mojo
I didn't watch the pre-show.
Oh, you didn't? Well, really, you don't need to worry about it. That match.
Sean.
That was trash. I mean,
tell me about it.
If there was garbage like that, the next thing, like your next door neighbor's garbage wasn't enough garbage for that thing. I'm sorry, it was a waste of time. Like, I don't know why. And why did it need to even go 10 minutes? Like, Kurt Hawkins I'm sorry, he's just a dude. Like, he should have squashed Kurt Hawkins in about 3 minutes. You could have filled the time with something else.
So this is a pre-show match between Kurt Hawkins and Mojo Rawley, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I didn't even watch
it. It's not worth your time to watch, right? I will say that much. And that's because it's not because it's bad. It's because it is horrifically average, excessively average. Like technically there is nothing wrong with the match. There's no mess ups. There's nothing like that. There's no heat to it because, one, nobody cares about either guy. Mm-hmm. WWE's done nothing with Kurt Hawkins, and Mojo they seem to want to at least do something with, and that's fine. You got to
all you ever get with Mojo is he gets nice moments on Talking Smack. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, this average match might be the best match I've ever seen him in. Bar none.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't know about that.
At least you've got your high praise there.
Okay, a singles match, yeah.
Singles showing, this might have been his best match.
Well, was that his longest singles showing probably, too?
I mean, he never got excessively long matches on NXT because most people couldn't stand him for that long. So.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it's the truth, and I hope the best for the guy. I mean, I think the guy, at least can be something when it comes to if you want to push him into that mid card and get him going. But right now, to me, he's still so green. To me, he's still something that
him and Apollo Crews be a tag team. They can just be the obsessively average guys.
I think that possible teaming is going to be put in doubt for a while. So,
oh boy, yeah. So, and I'm sorry, people. These two guys gave you the match. I didn't watch it. Kind of our rule here is if you watch the pay-per-view a little later, don't worry about the pre-show. So I kind of didn't worry about the pre-show. And Sean usually tells me it sucks anyway. And when I do watch it, honestly, not great. So let's go ahead and talk about the actual first match here, which they consider the actual show of Elimination Chamber. Let's talk about Becky Lynch facing off against Mickie James. And once again, this is one that I think all of us were kind of interested in. And this is a veteran in Mickie James who's taking on Becky Lynch, a former women's champion, someone who's, been really impressive. But now you actually get a matchup that could be very interesting. And I think they gave us one. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I like the story. I like Mickie James, a veteran, taking out the arm of Becky Lynch, really working it, and just a back and forth here. I'm telling you, I thought it was a pretty good way of starting the show, and we do have Becky Lynch winning, in a kind of a surprise kind of way. So, Paul, what did you think?
I wanted, and I called Becky to win, so I didn't have a problem with that. They worked a really solid match, I think. It's just I think the pin I would have preferred to be a little bit more definite, because Becky gets the flash pin sort of out of nowhere to win the thing, and I don't want to say it doesn't make it look like she's on the same level as Mickey, and maybe that's sort of the point that they're trying to get, and maybe I'm trying to give them too much credit, but the way that Becky wins makes it look like she's not on Mickey's level, right? Like, they spent the whole match, I think, going back and forth really nice, and she sort of takes the flash pin, the unexpected, and maybe that's the story they're going for. They're even, and you have to go for what they don't know, and that's the unexpected thing to win. And if that was what they were going for, then fine, but it doesn't look like Becky is on that same level as far as the finish goes, and that's unfortunate.
I think that's sort of what they were trying, because, the whole on Talking Smack is they complain that they were distracted. They didn't they took them for granted. They didn't, they were better than they thought they were going to be. Mickey sort of plays it off as she wasn't on her game or whatever. And so I think that's what they're trying to bring out, is that, yeah, Becky hasn't proven yet that she's on her level. I didn't really like it either. I thought if you're going to have Becky win, but I mean, I guess they want this to continue to be a thing, right? Because they got 7 weeks, and you're going to start a whole new story with whatever you're going to do at WrestleMania. I feel like with what we got on the explanation of Talking Smack is that both these feuds are going to continue, along with the other women's feud. So, they kind of played it off the best they could.
Yeah, this is so difficult because you want both to succeed. I think both need to succeed in their own way. We talked about this when we previewed this match, and it was so hard for me to pick against Mickie James because of the fact that she's new. Let's be honest. I mean, she's a new old superstar. Because if you remember back in the day against Trish and all these other superstars,
hasn't been wrestling for 7 years.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fact that Mickie James has been gone for so long from WWE, she's basically new again. And you don't like when people come in and they're new to get beat pretty quickly. It hurts their image. And so, besides doing it this way, the only way you're going to do it is a count out or a DQ or something we really don't want to see. And I can appreciate the way they
do that with them using it later in the show. That would have been terrible.
Yeah, well, I agree. I that's why I'm saying I think that the way this ended was okay. Becky Lynch needed it more. She kind of does, because really Becky Lynch has not really done a whole lot. Since she's been women's champion, she's not done a whole lot at all. And this is something that keeps her relevant. It also shows that she can beat Mickie James, even if it is a kind of flash pan kind of win. This can continue. This can get even hotter when it comes to the feud. I think it's a good thing at the end of this whole thing, at least in this match. But I don't know.
I will say that whenever JBL said the part about, Mickie James hasn't just been sitting on the couch for 7 years. She's been wrestling, just not here. That totally felt like that was just JBL deciding he was going to say that. Like, it didn't feel like somebody told him to say that.
Yeah.
Because Mara was being very adamant that, she hasn't been in a ring for 7 years. So
yeah. The ring rust comment and all that. Yeah, I was like, "Are you serious? You're telling me she has ring rust? She just wrestled in another company."
Yeah, and then not to mention, like, they totally ignore she had the match with Asuka.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
It's like, okay, whatever, guys.
NXT doesn't exist when you're on the big brand.
No, NXT doesn't exist when they don't want it to exist, which is hilarious because it exists in many other ways. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It's and I expect more out of your Mauro Ranallo. Come on, you're one of
Well,
my
I
favorites.
mean, it's not like he can just go rogue because,
I know he can't.
he wants to make sure he has a job.
And JBL doesn't have to worry about that as much. So
Yeah, JBL can kind of do what he wants. Really, at the end of the day, he don't,
hmm
But yeah.
did you have anything else you wanted to say about this match or anything?
It was a good match. I thought for start of the show,
Yeah, that's a solid opener.
yeah.
Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and for the kind of matches that we have on this card, I think it was one of the smarter decisions. Especially when we'll talk about some other matches later, you'll kind of understand why I even say that. Let's move on to the next match, though. Let's talk about this big handicap match between Dolph Ziggler facing off against Apollo Crews and Kalisto. And, we were kind of debating back and forth what we kind of thought would happen here. A lot of us felt like this could be a situation where, Dolph goes crazy, beats everybody down with chairs and all that, and DQ situation, whatever, or vice versa. What we got here, though, was, it was Dolph Ziggler doing something, evil and all. He actually jumps Kalisto during his entrance and injures him. So now you basically are down to Apollo Crews and Dolph Ziggler, which makes this whole thing evil. They have some back and forth. Apollo looks good, then Ziggler looks good. You have Kalisto enter back into the fray, supposedly pretty injured. I mean, they say he's supposed to be in the back, but then all of a sudden his offense just blew up, and then he sold the back again, which was kind of funny, but that's okay. It goes with the story.
Adrenaline, Gary.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Wonders. No, being honest, adrenaline works.
You're exactly right. You're right. It is. And so, but then you go on in this, and they, Apollo does, pin Ziggler here. Ziggler does get a chair involved, though. We have to mention that. He loses. He basically knocks Kalisto down off the apron. Kalisto's injured again, and then, of course, he injures Apollo Crews by just using a chair to destroy his ankle. So Apollo Crews, looked halfway decent in this. Kalisto, yeah.
All right.
Dolph Ziggler just burning up with, just being the heel, and that's awesome. It's good.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't, Gary. I'm sorry.
Why? What is it?
This was execution wrong. WWE should have known better. I said this, and then I wrote it, and they don't seem to get it. No one cares about Apollo Crews or Kalisto. They are chanting, "Thank you, Dolph Ziggler," when you crushed his ankle. What does this show you? You did this wrong from the beginning. Why would you put the guy that is more well-known than the other two as the one in the handicap match? Are you dumb? Or what? This was just so bad. It made them look so bad. And I'm so glad that the crowd just did exactly what you figured any normal WWE crowd's going to do. They're going to chant for the guy they know. Mm-hmm. They're not going to chant for the guy that they don't care about because Apollo Crews just smiles. And Kalisto's just the lucha guy. The problem with Apollo Crews is he can't just go escape to 205 Live whenever WWE feels like they want to do that with Kalisto. So Apollo Crews is just screwed. Hopefully they get this to work with the ankle thing, but God,
I get your point. I get your point. No one cares about these two. No one cared about these two a month ago, 2 months ago. They just have not cared really since Apollo Crews debuted. No one's cared, and that's a bad thing. They should have done it a different way. They got too excited about Apollo Crews. They just had to make him that guy after WrestleMania 32.
No, they just think that people are going to just boo Ziggler.
No, I'm
because
trying to
he's
point
doing
out,
dastardly things,
Well, I want to point out, though, your reasoning for saying these two guys suck, Kalisto and Apollo, though. You got to think about why. It's because, really, these guys have not been showcased in a great way. Kalisto was doing fine as a Lucha Dragon.
I'm not saying they suck. I'm saying WWE's booking sucks.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just giving the reasons why we don't care about these other two guys, though. And I look at Dolph Ziggler, and yeah, it's not crowd heat. The crowd could care less. I love Dolph Ziggler. He could break both of Apollo's ankles and his neck. I mean, not really, but
Jesus, Gary.
Gary went from.
I'm just just throwing that out there.
I do want to point out too, like there's some some racism in there too. Like
no, that's
you're the
terrible.
white guy. No, not you. I'm talking about you got the white guy with the American flag pants on, beating up the black guy and the Mexican. I mean,
Sean, why did you bring it there? That's so.
No, I'm not the only one that brought that up.
I know.
I know. You know, I wouldn't put it past Vince. This, you know who you got as the president right now. So,
yeah,
just saying.
That's not politically. That's not true. But anyway,
I don't know.
I think that's a whole misconception. But let's just talk about this match. The WWE. Let's focus on that. So I think that Dolph Ziggler's doing what he has to do. No one cares. No, honestly, no one really even cares what's going on with Ziggler right now because he's not doing anything important. Paul, I mean, give me your perspective on this. I mean, I don't think it's terrible because what were they? This really can't go anywhere.
So I don't think Ziggler working. They did this wrong from the start, anyways, right? The faces once Dolph should have just. I mean, they should have just came out, beat up Dolph, and moved on. They didn't do that. They've had Dolph look damn near evil the entire time, so. The entire feud, I don't even think was ever meant to be about Kalisto and Apollo Crews, right? This is about Dolph Ziggler, and that's what the ending and the pre-match attack and everything else has been telling you is that wins and losses for Dolph continue not to matter. He continues to want to beat people up, and we see it time and time again on WWE television. When you beat people up and look important doing it, people will care. People care about Dolph Ziggler because he's beating up people easily. Not winning or losing, he's just hurting people. People love that. They love that in wrestling. They've never let either Kalisto or Apollo Crews do that at any point, and they've never given them any characters to expand upon them with. So why should people care? And
it's the same reason why Joe got cheered too, because he just came in and beat up Rollins.
Exactly. You beat people up, you get over. When you're allowed to do that, you'll find your way to the crowd's hearts. Dolph Ziggler's done that again, and he's beaten up two nobodies that WWE continues to drop the ball with despite their amazing wrestling talent. I understand they don't have a lot going for them on the other side of the coin, but these guys deserve better. So hopefully you can send them off screen for a little bit, and if you want to send Kalisto 205 Live, that's fine. Although I don't think SmackDown's roster can really afford the loss. You can bring back Apollo and hopefully take him back to the drawing board and figure out what the heck you want to do with this guy. Because all they've done so far is just sign a guy who had some buzz on the indie scene. That's all they've done with him. And that's what they expected you to get him over on, is people knowing who he is. Because they haven't given you any other reason to care.
Ugh.
I agree. And you know what? And I was making a joke about Apollo. I really do like Apollo Crews. I think he's a great athlete. He hasn't shown us half of what he can do. I mean, we know that. This guy can do so much more than I think that he's shown on WWE television. It's just the fact they haven't done that right thing like these two guys are pointing out right now. And I think if they do go back to the drawing board, they've either got to make him one or two ways really aggressive, or if you got to keep him in the smiley babyface role, they've really got to find a different path for him, something that really can be entertaining, something that can get people behind him. Because right now, it's just, hey, here's a guy, like him, and that doesn't work. We all, Paul just pointed that out. So.
Yeah, but that unless you're Bailey, that never works. Or Sami Zayn, because they're small. But that never works. How many guys have come out and been the smiling babyface guy? No one cares. It's until they get a motivation, they get some kind of edge to them that somebody finally goes, "Oh man, look at what he's doing now." It's just he's gonna have to just do a 180 and get so pissed at the fact that Ziggler is continually beating him up. Now you're giving him some kind of motivation. Okay, you broke his ankle or whatever the heck's gonna happen to him. You've gotta go from there, and you can't just have him be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get Dolph Ziggler or whatever, he's got to be furious. Like, he's got to be angry and just tear Ziggler a new one whenever his ankle gets better. Like, just, you cannot have him go back to being Smiley Apollo Crews after that. Just, it's never, he's going to die right there and not going to be able to come back.
It's up to him, though. That really is up to Apollo Crews, because he's going to have to change his mannerisms, change just what he does. And he's got to get past that. I mean, so it's up to him as well. WB can book him however, but he's got to execute. And I think he can. I think he has that ability. I just hope that that does take place. Because we've seen, Sean, you just pointed out two people that I think is great examples of that. Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, they booked him well. They gave him some opponents on the biggest show, Raw, and opponents that mattered. And now you can actually feel like, Sami Zayn matters. Bayley, we're still working on that. It's not exactly the right now. They're still trying to get that. So that's a work in progress. But, I mean, it could be done. So, well, let's move on. Let's talk about another match on this card that was very interesting. And that, of course, was the Tag Team Turmoil match. And this one was kind of fun to watch, actually, guys. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sold that I was going to care about this. I was ready to hit the snooze button, and it didn't have to be done here. So we'll go ahead and talk about some of these tag teams. And I'll kind of go through how this whole thing worked out. Heath Slater and Rhino had a match between Breezango, and they did get past Breezango. So out came, guess who? Well, the Vaudevillains. And the Vaudevillains looked like they were kind of wearing down on these guys, but hey, Heath Slater and Rhino were able to overcome them and move up. And so that left the Usos to come out. And this was cool. I think they had a good mix-up with the Usos here, but the Usos do win. And so then you come out and you have American Alpha. And those two teams are battling it out. And really, this is the meat of it, if you ask me personally. The Usos and American Alpha have a pretty good back and forth here. The Usos do lose. American Alpha is able to eliminate them from this match, but not without the Usos getting some serious damage on American Alpha, leaving them out to lay. And the Ascension was the last team introduced here, and they were supposed to pick the bones of American Alpha, but they couldn't do it. They just could not clean up the carnage that was left over from the Usos, and American Alpha does retain their tag titles here. So after saying all that, guys, I just got to know how you felt about this match.
I think this was another snore fest for me. Not because of the action. I think the action was overly fine to good at some points, but they're showing off their lack of depth, right? And they tried. I really think they did. Slater and Rhino got a bit of a run. That was okay. The Usos kind of come in and play spoiler a little bit for them. And then, American Alpha has the big match with them. And then here comes the Ascension after the Usos attack them, and who continue to be as non-threatening as WWE makes them. And they really tried to create some drama there at the end, but no, I don't think anybody was buying it. I think everybody knew Alpha was walking out with the belts, and they need to get some of these teams to matter in a hurry, and I don't know if some of them are too damaged for you to ever fix that.
Well, this is another wrong execution match by WWE. They did nothing in this match that makes it to where you couldn't have had what should have been, which was American Alpha comes out first and runs through the entire division. They did nothing different where you couldn't have done that, where American Alpha because you basically made the Ascension look like idiots. So why couldn't the American Alpha just run through everybody? They're tired anyway. Usos beat them down. They're more tired, and the Ascension still look like idiots. So, if the whole point of this was to make it where American Alpha whoops the entire division again, I don't understand what the point was of having them come out second to last. Just have them run through the whole damn division. And then you set it up to where the open challenge is still there and somebody answers it, that it's actually going to beat them. Because I don't think this really did them any favors other than and you could have still done that spot with the Ascension almost winning.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like you could have actually done a lot more for Alpha if they just beat everybody and they really look like a dominant team, and they're sitting there going, maybe they even strike some kind of deal where they let a Raw team come over or something like that, or whatever, or they bring up, you don't have to bring up like TM61, but you can, well, obviously the guy's injured, but you can bring up a lower level NXT team or something and, have them beat them, and, you can figure out ways to extend this through, because I'm assuming we're not seeing the revival until WrestleMania itself, because they're obviously involved in it, feud in NXT, unless they're going to bring them up early and let NXT just be itself, which we've seen that before too many times. So, there has to be an end game here with some other team showing up and beating them.
I think both of you bring up some good points. The one thing I will say is maybe I'm in the back pocket of WWE tonight. I don't know. The reason I say that is because I did not hate this, and you how much I hate this whole tag team division right now. I get so bored on watching SmackDown, watching the tag teams.
I will say I don't think either one of us said that we hated this. It's just it didn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah. Well, no, it didn't need. Well, okay, so here's what it did for me, and I'll just say it this way: the wrestling wise was fine, but it was nothing explosive, nothing where I was just like, "Good God, one of the best men." No, it was not about that. I didn't care that American Alpha wasn't first because I didn't need that. I already walk into this thing knowing American Alpha is the best tag team in that whole tag team division. I don't need them to go through everybody. That would have put me to sleep immediately. I probably wouldn't have made it to the main event. I think what I needed was to see more of these tag teams and getting behind some of these teams. And sure, maybe I kind of felt like it was needed to Rhino and Heath Slater be able to go through some guys, maybe to get back in that picture of, hey, we were the champions at one time. Maybe we still deserve a shot at this.
We were also broken up at one time.
Well, yeah, but that's because someone didn't get elected, so, But at the end of the, this whole thing, though, I mean, I really feel like, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And I think that they were trying their best. You can only do so much with so little. That's just the honest truth. And I don't think that they did a bad job of it. I really kind of felt like they did what they needed to do, did the best with what they had. You can't build a brick house with, just a bunch of little stones and pebbles. You got to have the right material to do that, and they just don't have the right material. So I didn't love it. I'm not sitting here bragging on this match. I'm just saying I didn't need to know that American Alpha. I didn't need to see American Alpha squash everybody because it's just not needed from my point of view. So.
I think a lot of other people needed to see him be dominant. Not everybody has the same experience we have.
Yeah,
I guess you're right.
And they don't have to squash them either. They can, you can have teams taken to the limit or whatever, because obviously they're going to be more tired as they keep facing other wrestlers. Just having them win outright like that. I went through the entire division. Who is left for us to face? Which was the whole point of this from the beginning is. We went even a month without defending our titles because there's nobody here worthy of us. Mm-hmm. And then we beat them all again.
I totally get that. I will say this. If there's nothing else that comes out of this, at least I feel like the Usos matter again. From my point of view, the way that the Usos did things, and yes, they, were dastardly and they lost. But I needed to see the Usos or somebody come out of this looking good. And if nothing else, that's positive because the Usos were something at one time. We've got to remember that they were a tag team that was dominant, that really was difficult to beat, and Roman Reigns changed them. Here they are now heels, and that's great. I love them as heels too. I got to say that they're not terrible at it. They're probably better faces in the end, if you want to talk about career wise, but I think they're good heels. So if there's nothing else that comes out of this, and American Alpha still looks good. Sure, you guys have a point. Yes, if they would have ran the division, they're the best for sure. No one can argue that. But it's hard. Paul, you're exactly right. It's very hard. I watched NXT. I watched these guys pretty much from the beginning, so I have a different viewpoint, and maybe I need to take that away. But just it's kind of hard to pull away from that, So, but yeah, I mean, interesting. I love this. This is a great back and forth. I really think that's cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on and talk about a heated feud between two ladies who just completely hate each other. And that, of course, is Nikki Bella and Natalya. And, the story we get in this is kind of an interesting one because, as this feud is kind of built up, this has been about Natalya telling Nikki that you're not a wrestler. I'm a wrestler. You're not. And this is kind of fun because of the fact that really this entire match, Nikki was proving herself as a wrestler, right? And doing submissions and just really trying to prove a point that I'm a real wrestler here. So, I mean, I'm really kind of curious how you guys felt about, the way this all shook down, how you felt that they kind of paid this thing off with not paying it off. Because it was a count out. I mean, do you appreciate
I don't think that they needed to pay it off here.
Well, that's my point. That's I'm asking you. I mean, because they didn't pay it off. So, I mean, I kind of think that they could have done something, but I don't know. If this is a WrestleMania thing, I'm already kind of bored. I don't know.
First of all, I want to say that Nikki does the STF thing better than Cena does. So, Nikki got the idea of you need to make it look like you're choking her. John Cena I don't know what he does, but that's not it. Secondly, you got that totally right, Gary, that it's about, I don't understand what people wanted out of this. Like, that was the whole point, is that Nikki was trying to prove that she can be just as good as Natalya at what Natalya says she's great at. And then Natalya got frustrated and started beating her and throwing her into the barricade and all that other stuff. So Nikki fought back, and then Natalya finally just said, you know what? No, I'm not going to let you win by count out, so screw you, and we're going to keep going at it. And I'm fine with this because all three of the women's feuds are going to keep going because I don't know what they're really going to do here because you already had a 6-woman tag, so I don't think they're going to do that again. Unless they're going to have, that pre-show is 2 hours, or hell, they could make the pre-show 4 hours for all we know. So they could put like 10 extra matches on the pre-show, and they could have all of them have matches again. For me, we said this, and I think we said it during the preview. This deserves a stipulation. For as much as they've been beating the crap out of each other, this needs to end on a no DQ or a tables match or something where somebody gets put through something and they're out. Not, I just got a pin. So to me, I was totally fine with this not ending, and I liked the brawl at the end on the ramp, and then they kept going backstage too. Like, this has been that whole entire thing. I've been fine with it. Maybe it's not always perfectly executed, but this worked for me.
I think the finish worked for me. I think they dilly-dallied around for 13 and a half minutes before you got to the part that actually got your interest, and that was them beating the crap out of each other. The match felt lifeless. It felt very much like they were missing that edge that got all the interest into this feud in the first place, and that was at least pushing the pace and being aggressive towards each other. And I get what Nikki was trying to do, right? She's trying to out-wrestle Natty and whatever, but you can at least push the pace and be aggressive about it. And I don't think they did that at all. And it made it very boring to sit through until you get to the end where you got what had brought you to the table in the first place. So for me, I think the match overall failed, but the finish keeps it going in the right direction. I got no problem with this going on if they're going to keep doing this. But and what Sean said is right. This definitely does need a stipulation at some point, but this match could have had a lot more fire to it, and it would have been infinitely better off for it.
Yeah, that could definitely be something that could really make this a lot more exciting. I just look at it and say to myself, okay, so how much of this can we go? How long can we stretch this out? Can we stretch this out 7 more weeks? And the thought process is, maybe it doesn't stretch out because we get that whole rumored match of John Cena and Miz and, all that stuff and with the girls. But I don't... I hope that is the case compared to just Natalya and Nikki running all the way to Mania, because I just think there's too much time. I just think that unless they find ways to continue this on and continue on, they've done a decent job of stretching it out this far, but I think it's going to start to wane on people if they continue on way too long. So we will see. I have my concerns with that. So. But, in saying that too, Sean mentioned it earlier, they do fight later on in this show. And, of course, you do see Maurice get sprayed. So that could probably tell us the story of what happens next in this whole thing and, possibly some future things going on. So let's talk about the Viper. Randy Orton, he takes on Luke Harper in this show. And, this one was an interesting one, too, because of the fact that we've been kind of wanting to see these two guys have a match that is just them, no interference, nothing else. It's just, these two solo guys. And this one was kind of interesting. Lots of outside work here, throwing each other over the tables and, kind of throwing each other back in the ring. Just lots of different action. I think this was pretty okay. How did you feel about this one?
Go ahead, John.
This was great. Mainly because I don't think anybody expected that we're going to get this. I think people thought it was going to end about 10 minutes earlier than it did. They were doing a lot of that work on the outside because they had to go long because this show didn't have a lot of matches. But for what everything they gave you, they went at it. They were just beating the crap out of each other, and the crowd kept getting more and more into Luke Harper as it went on. They were doing his yeah thing and all that. I mean, I love the fact that Randy had to just get desperate and use the RKO at the end because it was getting to the point where he was really getting beat up. And this really did a lot to make Luke Harper look great. If WWE drops the ball after this, it sucks for Harper, but they really at least put him on a platform where you have something here. You just got to tap into the right thing.
I agree with you to an extent on that. I think they help people get interested in Luke Harper in this. And this match is great. Don't get me wrong. I loved the match. And people were there were audible "Let's go Harper" chants, which is great. You had people interested in him. I don't think this made him, but they definitely mapped this out to the right direction. I feel like it drags a little in the middle, but ultimately, like the end and the beginning they're hot, right? They're super good, and Harper is such a talented worker. I think you get a great picture of that. They did what I thought they should have done with. I forgot what match I was talking about last month that they should have done this with. They walked you pretty much right up to the door of Luke winning. Like, he is that tornado clothesline away from putting Randy away until Randy brings the RKO out of nowhere, right? And that's what wins it for him, and that's great. I mean, Luke deserves a solid push, and I think he can be a great mid-carder. And maybe one day challenge for the championship. You never know at this point, and especially with who's going to be having it. It could happen, but Luke is a talented wrestler and somebody you can put anywhere, and he absolutely deserves a spot on the roster. And I think this went a long way to at least helping people stay interested in him, and that's what you want.
Yeah, this was definitely a battle. This was a proof of, these two guys are super talented, but I mean, they are also willing to kill each other. And so that was what's kind of fun about this. And, you guys both used the word great. I think it was a really good match for sure. I know these guys can do even better than this. And that's not a knock on this match. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. It had the pacing of they built it up and it kept building up and it built up and built, and that was what was so great about it. And you never had that feeling of it kind of got stagnant or nothing like that. It was a momentum thing, and I appreciated that. I just know these two guys, and I really know that the next time they face off, it's going to be even better. And I think that's what excites me. And so I kind of see this as a starting point, if you ask me personally, and that's great. I like, once again, nothing knock on these guys. I think it's very good, and I want to use the word great when I see that next big match, and I want to get excited about it. But you guys are totally on point about Luke Harper. He needed this match. And with the crowd behind him, I think it was just a great showcase for him. And this guy is super talented. He's a guy that, has not been able to really showcase as much as, we'd like to see him do, because he was injured for so long. Getting back, now he's finally getting his opportunity that maybe he was not getting just because he was kind of just being a lackey, if you'll say it that way, and also being kind of stuck in a tag team for quite a while. So I think this is going to be fun to see this journey of Luke Harper and see where it goes. And this is just the beginning. I'm excited about where he goes from here. And to have such a good match with a guy like Randy Orton, that speaks volumes for what the talent that this guy has. So I'm thrilled. And I know this is not going to be the last time we see these guys. This is going to be a lot of fun to see. So, but yeah, you guys have anything else you want to say about that before we move on, just to make sure? Okay. Well, then let's take it on over to the women's championship match. Alexa Bliss is taking her championship in to face against Naomi. Can you feel the glow? And they have a match here where, Alexa Bliss, at first looks like she's going to be pretty dominant, but Naomi starts bringing it back. And, to me, this was kind of a surprise. Naomi does get the victory here. And she's pretty emotional after the match. Of course, Renee Young interviews her, and it was I'm sure for a lot of people exciting. I think it's really great that Naomi has her opportunity here. But I'll be honest with you, I like Alexa Bliss as the champion. This is kind of sad for me because I kind of felt like she'd been awesome going into WrestleMania as the SmackDown Women's Champion. But that's just me personally. Congratulations to Naomi, though. This is an awesome point for her. But how did you guys feel about this whole thing?
I mean, this something that Naomi could have won a while ago if Oksana had never broken her face. But I think this match was good. It started out a little rough, but they eventually found their groove and got to a great place. And I left a little surprised because I really thought they were going to leave it on Bliss, but they're going to go with this story of Naomi taking the belt home to WrestleMania and defending in front of the hometown crowd and everything. And that's cool. I think that's cool. Naomi's a talented wrestler. The victory celebration afterwards was very heartwarming and felt very real. I mean, the crowd versus this has been a long time coming for her, and I don't know. It feels like they're doing the women's division a little bit better here on SmackDown. They're letting the championship, instead of focusing it around Charlotte and essentially doing trickle down like they're doing on Raw, where you had Charlotte and Sasha battle over the belt and use that to make the championship. They're using the championship to make its champion so far. So if this goes towards solidifying Naomi as somebody to get behind and care about, then I think this is a good step forward towards that direction.
Yeah, I think both of them here. Naomi looked good. She still had a little moments where she isn't the cleanest wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she looked better here than she has in a while. The finish was one of those moments where it's like Alexa doesn't get all the way over, and the split-legged moonsault hits like Alexa's arm, and it's like, okay. That was a little bit lackluster to end, but I like that they had like really good moments of back and forth and countering each other, and the like kicking to the other kick, and like where they knocked each other out. Just this had good moments in it for an overall good match, but I still feel like you're missing that. Like, okay, Naomi's gonna be champion. God, everybody's wrapped up in something. Who's Naomi gonna wrestle in between here to make her look good while Alexa, I guess, is still, feuding with her or whatever? Her and Carmella gonna have like 10 matches before we get to WrestleMania? Like, I don't know. This is where the splitting of the women's division kind of hurts, because you really need to have Naomi look strong here and not just beating Alexa. Continue to do that. I mean, I guess you can have her wrestle Mickey or whatever too, but yeah, this is a cool moment for Naomi. That's cool that she's going to get to go be you think anyway. Who knows? They could take it away from her before then, but to have her be the hometown girl defending the title, let's see what they do with this, because one of these has to be a singles match, right? Like, they're not going to do 2 multiple person women's matches, but you just never know with this company. Sometimes they don't care if they have 4 or 5 multiple person matches on the show, and sometimes they do. This one is like, I thought Naomi, no way she's gonna win, but then I didn't think about, they really just don't have a direction for anybody here. Everybody's just kind of doing stuff with one person until they figure out what it is they want to do for the title going forward.
Yeah, it is so much the truth, and I look at this and say I'm kind of lost on that as well. Of what they're going to do. Of course, we expect Alexa Bliss, of course, to get her rematch, which I'm sure will happen sooner than later. But I mean, besides Alexa Bliss, you kind of look at Becky Lynch or Mickie James as being those next people to be going off and trying to win that title. Anybody else, you just don't know. I mean, Carmella didn't even have a match on this show. I don't imagine she's going to be at Mania facing Naomi. I think that would put people at a bore completely. So they've got to do something here. I think, of course, you should talk about Naomi going to Orlando, being the champion, being a hometown. That also kind of spells disaster for her, at least in Vince's eyes. Usually, percentages for you winning
if
your
she
hometown.
loses it in Orlando, that's enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's she at least got to walk in Orlando, right, as a champion. So that's a good deal. That's going to pop the crowd. That's really cool. But I'm just saying, usually that spells disaster for anybody. But I don't know. I'm kind of lost as well on the direction. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird and a little curious on what they're going to do. But, I mean, when in doubt, they seem perfectly fine with throwing everybody in. So they've done a good job of blending in the 2 women's feuds between Mickie and Becky and Alexa and Naomi. Now Alexa has to take Naomi seriously. So if this works out towards a fatal 4-way or something like that at WrestleMania, then that's what it calls for. I think their fatal 4-way would make a little bit more sense than what they're doing over on Raw if they're going to go do that 4-way still. So,
Paul, and you brought this up earlier in the show, and I think it kind of speaks for this too, if I can say it that way. But with Naomi winning here, it was a surprise, and you said the title makes the champion, and it's almost like the same we kind of saw with Bray, as Bray got a little bit more legitimate tonight, right? He got that opportunity. I think it does the exact same thing, kind of goes back to your point on Naomi. We need this, and in a weird way. I didn't want it to happen. I'm not going to lie to you, because I think Alexa Bliss would have been fun to see, dominate and then lose the title at Mania or whatever. But this is fine, too, because I think this helps this division. And Naomi can now say she's a woman, loses it, and I think it's a good deal. I really feel that way. So, and I'm happy for Naomi, like you guys just pointed out. I mean, she, probably would have been champion if she would never got injured. So this is cool. This is a really good deal for her. And
there's
honestly,
multiple times she could have been champion, but she gets injured at the wrong time. So
yeah,
hopefully this is one of those times where she stays healthy and gets to live out having this title reign until WrestleMania.
And can I say it this way? And since Sean's already thrown out the race card for us to talk about tonight, I think it's really cool. I'm sorry, just your races. No, I'm just joking. I'm kidding. Sean's Latino. Half of him is Latino, so he can't be racist, right? But anyway, my point here is I think it's excellent too that you do get a African American woman who gets a chance to look strong, and we get a chance to see her at WrestleMania and do that, because I'll be honest with you, they have not for a while now had that opportunity to do that, and it's great that they can run with it. You know what I mean? I know it's you probably shouldn't talk about that maybe. But to me, it's a good.
You do when it's like Jazz won, right? Jazz won the women's title.
So it's Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie, and I think ever since Melina, I don't think we've had a. Have we had a different Well, no, you had Eve and all that. I mean, and whatever. I'm getting myself lost in the weeds here, but I mean, ever since this women's revolution, you have Sasha and you have Naomi now. They've both, won championships, and it's a moment. The thing is, it's not about us, because we're all white here, so we can't really be able to express what that means. But for the black girls or the black boys or even the adults that see that and go, oh man, we can be in this world too. We can be champions. What the New Day did was absolutely tremendous for that. Even though there's a lot of people that, trust me, you go to certain parts of the Facebook and you're gonna get the, you know what I'm talking about. I don't really want to say, but the black guy that thinks that that's really bad, And we had a couple of guys in our group that were like, yeah, I don't like the way they act. They're not representing our culture the way that we feel like it needs to be represented or whatever, Not everybody can be The Rock, and then even then, The Rock wasn't black enough for some people. So it's a great thing for that culture to have somebody represented for you, right? This is why Vince has always been about, he hadn't always been about, but like in the early days, he wanted somebody from every freaking country and ethnicity and whatever on his program, because he could go to that audience and say, well, here's somebody that identifies for you, right? So, I don't know how long Naomi's going to keep the title or whatever, but if they can build upon this and Naomi gets to look strong and it's not like a fluky win and she keeps holding that title down and grows as a character and people really get behind her, this is really good for, building that fan base up and, the next black girl or even a black boy sees this and goes, hey, we have a champion. That's cool. And we take that for granted as white people, right? Like, I don't want to make this a race thing, but we take it for granted because, like, almost all the champions ever and all the, have been white. So we don't think about it that way, about how much that means to them, right? I don't know. I hate doing it this way because we're all it's uncomfortable because
I wish we had Chris Limsky on. I really do, because Chris Limsky could speak a lot more to this and give us a better perspective. And maybe the next time he's on, we'll get his perspective on how much it does mean.
I think like we did with the announcers, right? Like he was. It's bad because like what you're doing with your characters, it totally feels different with the announcers. So other than like it's just David Otunga's there to get hated on or say something dumb, and Byron Saxton, same thing. Percy Watson is a total waste of space on NXT. I'm sorry, I don't want to say it in a mean way, but he is. And like I feel bad because like you have these strong characters, like even Rich Swann was cruiserweight champion, you have strong characters, but your announcers are like the comedy. So it's one step forward and two step backwards with WWE. So.
Yeah. And now that you pointed that out, I just got a little sadder. But it's the truth. It really is the truth. But I just never think it that way. Now, David Otunga, they can fire him tomorrow. I don't care. But Byron Saxton, even Percy Watson, I think those
Byron
guys.
Saxton's better than that, though. He was actually a really good ring announcer, and when he's allowed to just, when he was in NXT and he could just be serious, he's not bad.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And Percy Watson probably could be something that just doesn't get the opportunity a lot, I don't think, but we'll see. But no, I mean, I didn't want to make this a whole race thing. I just want to say this is really good. I think this is a positive thing for Naomi and of course, for the African-American community who backs her. Like we said, we don't come from that perspective, but we know she's got a fan base, and it's great, and we're excited for her, and we'll see what happens in the future. So, but yeah, we need to tie a bow on this thing, guys, and kind of give a rating and kind of, give our overall thoughts on Elimination Chamber 2017, if I can talk. So, Paul, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Ultimately, what you're looking for to deliver on this show delivered, right? The Elimination Chamber was fantastic, and you have some nice bonuses here or there, like Randy and Luke being as good as it was, and the women's title was solid as well. Everything else is either progressing feuds or not, in some cases, or just sort of throwaway at the end of the day. I'm gonna go 6.5. I really enjoyed the top 3 matches a lot, and I think that's what carries the show through to being something passable.
Yeah, that's right around where I was with this. Is what puts it a little bit over the top is the surprise with Naomi, Bray Wyatt getting a moment that I didn't think he was going to win that way. I fully expected Luke Harper, Randy Orton to come in the chamber, and they're the reason he wins. I didn't expect Bray Wyatt to look this strong and just outright win, get the celebration. The crowd is happy for him. I will say, the crowd was really happy for Naomi when she was doing her celebration. So it was just aside from the moments, you get this total surprise of Luke Harper, Randy Orton, like just flooring you with how good that was, and the Elimination Chamber, I think, delivered wonderfully, and the new chamber, I think, is a welcome thing. It's interesting, and now they can have that show every year, I guess, since it should fit in the new arenas.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. And, I look at this whole show as being exactly what you guys kind of pointed out. It kind of, got some of these feuds further down the line. It gave you some big surprises. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised that Bray Wyatt did win the WWE Championship, only because that's what's been all over the internet. Vince hates that. Kind of surprised he stuck with it. Huge surprise that Naomi won, all that great stuff. So there were some things here that was not fodder. There were some things here that was kind of exciting. And not everything was perfect. I don't think it needed to be. I think SmackDown is going in a good direction still, even after this whole, results. I'm going to go 7. I appreciate everything. I think that's a fair rating. I think if there would have been some better moments and just a little bit more oomph to this, you could maybe push it to that 8, but I just don't know if there's enough of that. We still have a lot of question marks coming out of this, and maybe more for other reasons than just, them purposely doing that. So that's why I got to go 7 here, guys. But yeah, that's our Elimination Chamber 2017. We will be, of course, back with you guys. If you want to come check out all our other shows that we do, we want to let you know that we'll be having episode 1 of a Wrestling to the Max show, episode 234. Now, of course, part 1 will be on Monday night. Part 2 of that show will be on Thursday night, so they'll be available for the download on Tuesday and Friday mornings. Also, don't forget, we do review shows on this. We also do Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, 205 Live, and NXT. So if you're a fan of any of those shows, we do those review shows, and they'll be available the next morning after they appear on TV. NXT, though, will be on Friday morning because we do that on the same night we do our episode part 2. But yeah, guys, that is our.
This week we'll have the second part of the New Beginning show as well with the Saga show.
Okay, cool, sweet. Yeah, so check out all that New Japan.
Sorry.
So that'll be a separate show. Or would that be along with episode?
That will be a separate thing.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So, if you're a big New Japan fan, you need to go check that out. And let me tell you, you can check that out. If you're not already subscribed to the W2M network, then do it now, because that show will be in your dock as soon as it's recorded, and it'll be put right there for you guys if you do love New Japan. And if you don't know anything about New Japan, go listen to that show. It'll help you. Also, of course, W2Mnet.com will have it as well. So if you're a big fan of just going online, looking up stuff, it'll be right there also available for you. So lots of great content. We don't want you to miss a minute of it. That's why we keep telling you guys about it. So we are out of here, though. We thank you once again for coming and listening to us. And, of course, we will see you guys on down the road. For myself, for Sean and Paul, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.